Hello, and welcome to, standing in front of my bed, because, to be quite frank, I've run out of places to film. Hello, I'm Sophie. Welcome back to my channel, and welcome to what I am deciding to call my writing processes video. I've gotten a few recommendations on this sort of topic, or other smaller topics that I thought would kind of fit into this video, so we're here. Let's get started. My laptop's all the way over there this time, I can't just look. So, disclaimer. I am not very far into the whole writing thing as a whole, so this is just what I'm doing now. This is what I found to work for me now, which just means I will definitely be doing an update on this topic in the future once I have more things established. Also, the farthest I've ever gotten in writing a story is the second draft, so don't expect this video to be too long. I need a better place to put my laptop. I'm just gonna put it on screen. Sorry guys. Bonk, now I have it. So, it begins for all of my projects, or the ones that I know I'm gonna seriously start working on soon, with a project notebook. Oh, that's what I forgot. I forgot props. Here's project notebook. It was my old history notebook until I realized I wanted to use it for this project, so I ripped out all the history notes. This is Project Quest's notebook. I didn't know the vibe for this story when I first made it, so I just put some green tape and scribbled over it. Okay. This is for Project Star, sci-fi. This is for Project Glass. I don't know how to describe that one. And this is for my NaNoWriMo novel, Project End. One of the pictures got ripped off. I don't know where that part went, but it looks cool still, so I'm not mad. But this is all once they're like, I'm certain I'm going to be writing them. All 5 of these have finished drafts. Once they're serious, they get one of these. But if it's just ideas that I keep getting for a story all the time, it's just cryptidly titled Google Docs in my Google Drive. The second thing that I get, however, just right off the bat, straight from like, ooh, I want to write a story like this, is characters, character appearances. Not character personalities or anything, but character appearances. I'll either get them just from like photos on Pinterest and stuff that I'm like, whoa, that looks like a character kind of thing, or I'll draw like a portrait kind of thing of just some random thing that comes to mind and I'm like, well, that's them. I need to know character appearances before I start writing. Don't ask me why, but I do, every time. I need to draw them or have a picture reference of them before I start writing. Now, plotting. This I have to do on paper. I cannot do plotting and brainstorming and stuff like that when it gets down to it on the computer. It just doesn't work. I can't do it. So, of course, I have the main plot. I use the 15 beats from Save the Cat. Just the basic one. I know Save the Cat writes a novel, has a lot more stuff in it, and I need to get that book. But I just used basic 15 beats and what I knew about them, and those are set up. That's like the bones. And then I'll plot out every individual aspect of the story that I want to add in. Character arcs, relationship arcs, antagonist arcs, stuff like that. And I'll plot those out all individually on pieces of paper in these notebooks. So I've got the 2 main characters' character arcs here, just blocks of text separated by arrows that show the direction. I'll plot each aspect out individually on paper, and then I'll put them on cards. Each individual moment I'll put down on cards, which I have color-coded. If you want to see the color-coding process as well, I have an old video of how I organize my writing. It's basically stayed the same, a few differences, but if you want to see how I color-code them, that's how I do that. But I put them all on cards, and then I just have stacks of like different arcs and stuff like that, and I have the 15 beats in front of me, and I kind of just sort it in and see where these arcs and these tidbits and stuff like that can fit into the 15 beat structure. And then world building. I usually really dive into world building after I write the first iteration of the story, but let's just put it here, makes things easier. So, I started by keeping Project What's world building and aspects and characters and stuff like that on paper. Let me grab that. I started on paper in this. It's all here. Oh, there goes paper. All of it right here, which was a terrible idea. But now I've moved to digital, now that I've done the free trial of Campfire and realized I really liked it, but I'm really broke. So I made my own world building slides, which also has a video. I'm plugging all of my videos now. They're literally just Google slide templates that I fill out either while I'm writing, or if I have the goal to finish a certain aspect, I'll do that. But usually it's pretty passive, entering in notes and reminders of certain aspects of the world to make sure I don't forget them later on. Now we can actually get to drafting, what I call my zero draft.
Alright, I thought this would be a good time to show you all how I format all my manuscripts. By all my manuscripts, I mean my zero draft manuscripts, and then how it looks after the zero draft revision. We're gonna do this fast. Let's go. So, the document header. This is just on the header for the first page, and you can do that by just clicking the box when you open the header that says different first page, so it doesn't copy onto all of the pages. This section for zero drafts, which is the only one I'm covering, it's 14-point font Times New Roman, and it just has the project name and what draft number it is. But for my second draft of Project What, I added my name and then the start and end dates, because I knew I just wanted to chronicle it, and now I tend to put the start and end date on new drafts. All of them. Now, chapter headers. This is no longer in the header, we're in the actual document. And I don't use Times New Roman for my writing, I use E.B. Garamond. And for the titles, chapter headers, I use 14-point font and bold/italicize it. Formatting for drafting, so for the actual words, I use Garamond, but I use 11-point font and don't do anything fancy to it unless, it's how you're supposed to. So no bold or italicization unless, grammatically you're supposed to. New chapters and scenes start unindented, and then for the first paragraph, I just hit tab. Sometimes Google Docs will pick up on the pattern and automatically indent the first line. I found that if you write out the first line that you want to indent, and then you go back to the front and indent it, it will set the formatting. Also, a cute little page break for every new chapter. Hotkeys, Control-Enter. Now, page numbers. I middle center them and then turn them into E.B. Garamond. Make sure your first page also changes, since it has different settings in the header. It also has different settings in the footer. To add page numbers, you just go Insert, then to Page Numbers, and then I use the option on the bottom left. It puts the numbers in the bottom right of the page, and then you can center them and change the font and stuff from there. Then, after the zero draft revisions, I revise my zero draft straight in the doc, and to mark my progress in the doc, I change the formatting on the chapter headings. Just highlight it, go to the little styles drop down menu, and then choose title. Then I change the Arial to Garamond, no bold or italic. She is eye-catching enough. That's all I do. Hopefully that helps. If you didn't know where to start when formatting your document, but that's just what I do. Everything else is basic Google Docs settings, unless I'm printing in and I'll change a few things, but that's it.
So typically this will be right after I plot. I guess I should show this. Here's an example of plot cards for a story. Project Quest. Book 1. Anyways, on to the zero draft. I usually start writing it right after I plot and put it on cards and stuff like that. But I am trying to learn self-control. And I'm trying to practice the art of saving new projects for NaNoWriMo in November. So far, so good. It's really testing me, though. But this first iteration of a story I do call a zero draft, in all caps. Zero draft. And if you want to know more on why I call it a zero draft, I answer that in my Q&A. Another video to link. It's super long, but I have all the timestamps down below. So if you just want to see that one, you can go find it. But if you don't want the crazy explanation, it's basically just a glorified plot for me. It's just fleshing out this world that I've had in my head for a month. to the point where it can actually be used to write a story. A big thing that happens in these drafts is that I establish the characters' personalities, because I basically don't have one until I write it. Like, I have a basic idea of like, oh, she's gonna be more quiet, or like, he's gonna be super laid back and chill, or something, but like, obviously there has to be more to it. So this is where that comes into play. I feel like these drafts too are very atmospheric, at least to me, of course, because of how much I rely on literally just the vibe of the story that I want to achieve. Like Project End sells the like small desert town. Project Star is very futuristic sci-fi. The first draft of Project What was super dark academia and like innocence thrust into the face of the real world kind of thing, and I loved it so much, and I couldn't mimic it in the second draft. I was so mad about it, but all will be there in time. Anyways, these can take me about like 20 days to 5 months to write, depending on the draft's priority in my work thing. NaNoWriMo last November brought out the 20-day zero draft, but like Project Star, which was my sort of back burner project while I finished draft 2 of Project What, took about 5 months. They're also very short. I am very much an underwriter. Probably 40k-ish or less. Save Project What, which was about 60-something k. Now, revising. I'm not the best person to come to on this subject, mainly because for the first 3 drafts I used 3 different revision methods. So Project What, I printed it out. Project Quest, I saved it as PDF and then wrote over it digitally. And then Project Glass, I used the method that I have now for zero drafts, which is I make a copy of the finished draft and just name it Project Name Revisions so I can just keep the 2 separate. And the idea is to keep all of the information, or most of the information, in the doc itself. I do take some notes externally, like for Project Glass, the first one I revised in this method. This was it. These were all the notes I had for it. And then for Project End, which I did the same thing for, it has like half a page. The idea is to just make it so I can quickly read over the revision doc and get a basic idea of my headspace when I was revising, to see if anything changed. Or if, you know, present and past me are vibing. We are moving on now to draft 1, and this is where it gets confusing because I called Project What's first iteration draft 1, so the draft I just finished is draft 2. Everything else has a draft 0, a zero draft, so their draft 2s will be draft 3. Don't worry about it. Also, the fact that Project Quest's book 1 that I just finished is currently also a zero draft, even though I've already written a zero draft. That's because I'm splitting that zero draft from last summer into 2 different books. So these 2 new books are both going to be zero drafts, respectively. So, for Project What, when I started the rewrite, I had just finished rereading it. I took a month to restructure the plot and things, so everything was very familiar. Everything was still in the front of my mind. But for Project Quest, which I had revised like nearly 12 months ago, it was not as easy. It's not as easy. So what I did was I took the first half of the draft, first half that I was going to be rewriting, and just quickly reread it in like 3 days just to get an idea of what I was getting back into. But that is now the plan for all these other zero drafts that I have stocked up. Just quickly read it over in a few days, get an idea of what I was thinking, see what the good, the bad, how everything was doing, and just step back into that world before I start. Then, once I'm actually rewriting, I keep the first iteration, or the zero draft, or the first draft, or whatever, next to me at all times so I can reference it to make sure I'm not leaving anything out, or that I'm staying on track, or just keeping the same energy, I guess, and just to make sure I'm keeping all the stuff I wanted to keep, because I'll highlight stuff in green, like lines or concepts that I want to keep, and sometimes I'll just have to catch up and make sure I have all of them in for the timeline, because I don't want to leave them out. Also, the next drafts in the process tend to be about double of what the zero draft was. So like Project What was 64-ish K, Project What Draft 2 was 140, which I need to cut down. The whole draft for Project Quest was about 40K, and now this first half one, where I just took the first half of the story, is 40K as well. So, kind of works. Then, printing it out. In one of the Road to the End of Draft 2 videos, I'll link it again, one of them I detailed the process of printing it out with Lulu. This one. I documented how I go about printing out mine on there. So if you want to see that, I'm pretty sure it's time-stamped as well. And I just printed out both the first and second draft for that story just because I thought it would be fun. And I want to print out all of the subsequent drafts from now on for Project What, just to see how they change over time. But I'm just doing that for fun. Also because printing it out kind of gives you a different look, a different perspective on everything. And I like that. It's fun. It's fun. It's expensive. So I'm only doing it with Project What, but it's fun. And I plan to print out my entire fantasy series once all the zero drafts are written, all 4 books, with either Office Max or Staples, one of the spiral bound ones, so I can have all 4 bound into one, just so I can have the entire story all at once, so I can revise it all, make sure everything's coherent, which it won't be, and see how it goes, and have it just all in one place, so I'm not carrying around 4 books or something, which... And then there are 3 more processes that I'm not too familiar with, but which I am beginning. First of which is beta reading. I am currently in the process of that. If you've been here for a while, you know that I am currently in the process of that, and will get back to you on updates. Revising after the first/0 draft hasn't happened yet, also currently in the process. After the beta reading thing, I will get into revising draft 2, but that just hasn't happened yet. And then finally, co-writing. I am currently in 2 different co-writing projects, and we're somewhere around Act 2 for both. Once those are done, I guess I can give my perspective on the whole co-writing thing. If you want to see one of my co-writers' perspectives, Books and Maddie, she has vlogs out for each act that we've written so far. I'll put those in the description. They're so good. I love it. Anyways, that is it for me. That's my process. That's it. If you want any more information, anything more specific, I can answer it in the comments, but that's just what came to mind as I scripted this. So, thanks so much for watching. Thanks for being here. Thanks for hanging out, and I hope to see you in the next one. Peace.